Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. So, first up, let me just give you a lowdown of, I guess, what I'm wearing. Well, in terms of what I'm wearing, there's not a lot of knitwear stuff. I've had this shirt for a really long time, and these are kind of my main pants. I think I have about 2 or 3 pairs of pants that I have. So yeah, you definitely, I think if you've watched my channel before, you've seen me wear these. But then as for knitwear stuff, I'm wearing these socks. So this is yarn from Japan. I bought this when I was in Japan. It's Opal KFS yarn in the color lilac, and then the darker parts are just German opal yarn, which you can easily find here in Europe. So that's that. Currently, what I'm working on in terms of knitting today is this sock. Well, this sock is finished. I'm working on the second pair. I think I've been working on these socks for I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Basically, I knit this in about 2 or 3 days, and then I just kind of didn't pick up the second sock. But I'm in general pretty good with just finishing a pair of socks. I started knitting socks this year, I think in March, and I've knit about 10 or 11 complete pairs. In any case, so you might see this better here. This is just a top-down sock, pretty straightforward, 1x1 rib. Then we have a linen stitch heel flap, and then I used a French heel. And then the interesting thing is that I used intarsia in the round, which now on the second sock is getting more intuitive. When I first started looking for videos on how to do all of this stuff, I was very, very confused. I didn't really know how it worked, but now I'm kind of understanding it. Or at the very least, once I get to the places where I need to do the intarsia thingy, I'm actually understanding what I have to do, and I don't have to constantly be looking at a video tutorial. So that's kind of I guess the intro to this video. It has nothing to do with the main subject of this video. But yes, today I wanted to talk about the Japanese knitwear books that I really, really want to buy in the future. So if you have been following me on any of my channels, you know that for the longest time I've had an interest in Japan, specifically the language. It started off with the language when I was in secondary school, and I got to take a Japanese language course. I thought it was very interesting, and I've always had a very huge interest in language learning. Then also, well, I guess before that, my best friend in secondary school was really into manga, so that's kind of how it's kind of slowly built up in interest. And so at the point now I'm at the point of being interested in manga, anime, Japanese language, and Japanese knitting and crocheting, because I've knit throughout my life sporadically, but in the last couple of years it's been more consistent. It's been one of my main hobbies. And this year I actually got to study in Tokyo for about 4 to 5 months, and so I got more invested. I got to meet Japanese knitters. I went to cafes, Japanese knitting cafes. I managed to make a couple of friends as well, and so I like to say that I'm fully integrated, basically. And so yeah, I've had a huge interest in what Japanese designers are doing, aside from what's going on the Western scene, because naturally I live in Europe, and yeah, that's also just a part of what I'm knitting. So yeah, it is pretty expensive to get books over here, so I try to buy them in batches when I can afford to get books. And so yeah, I've just been slowly like looking for books that have piqued my interest. So I just wanted to talk about them today. Yeah, as I was saying, like when you kind of like get into, I guess, the knitting scene of a certain region or like a certain niche within social media, you kind of like learn the pros and cons. And what I've learned is that it's kind of hard figuring out which type of knitting books I might want to have when it comes to Japanese and knitwear books, because when it comes to Western books, it's pretty straightforward. The things, the patterns that you're getting, you know what you get when you buy a book online. That's not always the case in Japan. Definitely when it comes to like pre-orders, they will show you maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 previews of things, and then yeah, it's just kind of like hard getting to know which books you might want to have. And so the best ideal situation, of course, is just to go to the knitwear store, or to the bookstore, I mean, and have just a look through the pages. But of course that's not possible when you don't live in Japan. So yeah, what I've been doing is a lot of like sleuthing. Basically, when a book gets released, I most of the time only will know about three knitwear designs, essentially. So what I'll do is I'll have to wait for a couple of weeks, then search the hashtags on Instagram to see what other knitters are knitting from the book. And also sometimes I might find the photographer who is posting pictures from photo shoots that they did for the book, or sometimes if I'm really, really lucky, I'll just look at the publisher, and then sometimes they'll do like a quick flip through. And also YouTube, there's this really nice YouTube channel, I think it's called Kyo Knitting. I think they are Chinese, and they import Japanese knitwear books, and they kind of like do a showcase of how it looks. So those are kind of like the skills that I'm using. So maybe this is some advice for people who are also interested in Japanese knitwear books, if you like really want to know how to get to know what's out there, because definitely on Ravelry you won't find everything. Okay, so that was a really, really long intro, so let's get into the books. So the first one is called, what's it called? Oh yeah, it's called Hatta yoko no shimeresu nitto. So it's basically Yoko Hatta's seamless knits. So Yoko Hatta is a knitwear designer who is very well known for both her sweater designs and her scarf designs. I really, really like her designs because they are, I guess, they're not necessarily simple, but there's always like very interesting details in what she does. And it's not always like, you have some designs, for instance, who will take one pattern and do it all over the sweater, but she, there's just a lot of variety. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. I also recently bought one of her sweaters online, of this book of hers that was out of print. It was a book of sweaters that had really cool designs, sweater designs. Like the level of sweaters that of her sweater designs are like a bit experienced for an experienced knitter. So that's something that really appeals to me, like the challenge of, learning new techniques, or, basically learning new techniques and improving my own knitting. So yeah, this is actually a book that is quite new. I believe at the time of filming, it's been out for maybe like 2 weeks. A little bit more than 2 weeks. Yeah, that made it like really hard to figure out what was like in there, but luckily the publisher also flipped very quickly through the book this time, and I believe that the book has about 10 sweaters or like cardigans, then 2 vests, and then a couple of accessories. But yeah, it's really, the focus is really on the sweaters, and I have a couple that I think are quite interesting. There's this dark blue Aran cable sweater, and there's this picture where you can kind of like see a close-up of the neck, and I just love the fit and the detailing of it all. So that's definitely one that I would like to try out. There's also this one purple cardigan that I didn't really couldn't get like a very close up look of, but it seemed like something interesting. And then finally, there's this really, really nice, how would I call it, vest. Yeah, basically a vest which uses knits and pearls to get this basket weave pattern, and I just really liked how it looked on the model, so that is something that I am very interested in. So yeah, that's basically everything I have to say with regards to this book. There's another one that I have been eyeing as well for quite some time, and yeah, basically from Yoko Hatta as well. It's called Makimono, and this is a book that contains 19 scarves. And the thing that I really like about this book, because I think she also has a second book of scarves as well, which I might want to get in the future, like if I've like gone through the other book and I've picked out the scarves that I want to knit and feel like I want to like knit more of their designs essentially. Yeah, what was I saying? Like, yeah, the thing that I think that's really interesting is the different types of textures and techniques used. Every single scarf is so distinctively different from the other scarves, or at least the ones that I have been able to actually see. Like, for instance, on the cover you have this very like bubble thingy textured scarf. Definitely like not my type of style, but I really do appreciate the uniqueness of it. So yeah, having said that, some scarves that really stood out to me, well, one definitely I thought was really, really nice, and it's called Wave. So it's like this very long rectangle scarf, and it has this lace detailing that makes it look like waves. It has kind of like how would I call this again? It's this like French art style from like the late 19th century. I can't really come up with it for some reason, but it's an art style that I've always like have appreciated a lot, and I think the scarf is like very reminiscent of it. So I think that's a very cool design. Then you also have this weaving basket type of design. It's called dot, I believe. Yeah, and so it's these diagonal weaving type techniques. I've never done anything like that, so I'm not really sure how like the construction really goes, but it's that, and you have in some of these squares like different colors, so it looks like you have these dots on the scarf, which I thought was very interesting. Moving on, we have another knitwear designer who is one of my favorites. So this book is also came out also pretty recent, I believe last month, so in October. It's called Amimono Nooto, and this is by Sanae Nasu. Every time when I look at like catalogs, Japanese catalogs, there's always like a couple of patterns that will catch my eye, and I'm like, wow, this looks like really nice and clean and pretty. And often in time I find that it's her designs. So I kind of like got to know this designer through Daruma. She does a lot of work for Daruma, which is like this, I wouldn't say like wool and the gang type company, but it's a Japanese company. They do knitting, sewing, and what else do they do? Yeah, I think it's mainly knitting and sewing that they do, and they have pattern books that come out, but they also have knit kits that come out as well. And yeah, every year they have this pattern book called Daruma Pattern Book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They've been doing this for 8 years. And yeah, she has had a couple of her designs in there, and her designs have been on my list for quite some time. I actually also have a book from her. Maybe I can even take it out now. Yes, so this one, ito to amimono, so thread and knitting. So I have this book of hers. I don't know if you can see it here. I had this because I had a couple of things that I thought were really neat that I wanted to make for my mother. First off, this cardigan. I haven't gotten to it yet, but this one, and then what else did I have? A pair of mittens, I believe. Yeah, I can't really find it. Oh, yeah. I thought, no, these I wanted to actually make for myself, but I have yet to, like, just buy the yarn for it. I thought this was really cute. So she actually gets published by Bunka. Bunka is a publishing company, which I feel like has more of a modern touch to it. So a lot of these people that I like, books that I buy, knitwear books, often come from Bunka. Yeah, so getting back to Amimono Nooto. Yeah, so this book, it was kind of like hard. This one was really tough, like trying to see the design. So I spent a couple of days looking through Instagram, just checking constantly, seeing if more people like posted what they were working on. And turns out this book is like a very nice book of, you have some like more interesting, more advanced designs, but also more basic things that you can like spice up, maybe perhaps with like different types of color variation, and I don't know, yeah, just basically basics. So I saw like, it's what seemed like a basic recipe for socks, a basic recipe for a sweater, and a basic recipe for a vest. And then you have like some more interesting stuff. There's a couple of sweaters, I believe, that have nice, interesting detailing. The cover has shows one of the sweaters that has, you see, is not that basic, not basic at all, but you know, is has like some interesting techniques going on. But the thing that really caught my eye, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't really use this as one of their like marketing pieces, because it's the thing that really caught my mind and was like, okay, I really want to buy this book, you know. It's the sweater called Yuki no Seta, so it's basically called winter sweater. And it's this very Scandinavian vintage looking sweater, which I thought was really cute. It's just like dark blue, and then you have like all these snowflake motifs on the chest part, and then it goes down again to dark blue. For some reason, I think that's like really interesting. I've seen this design before. I think Järbo, which is like a Swedish knitting company, they sell a lot of free patterns. No, they offer a lot of free patterns, and I think I actually saw that they have something similar to this, but I just thought it looked really nice. I think the fit looks really nice as well. So that's definitely one of the books that's on my list. Then moving on, so this book, there's so much hype around this book. Also, I do have to say, with Yoko Hatta's book, there was a lot of hype, and it was actually sold out for a good couple of days on like Japanese websites. But you have this book called, Matatabi Nito. So yeah, Matatabi Knit, and this is by Mariko Mikuni. So Mariko Mikuni is huge in Japan. So she has really, over the past, I don't know, maybe 2 decades or something, established herself as like at the forefront of Japanese knitwear designers, and she's kind of like grown her brand into also offering knitwear kits. And now with this book coming out, which is the first in 4 years actually, she now has kits for almost every single pattern in this book. So I believe this was inspired by her travels in Hokkaido, like the fashion there. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that at some point. But yeah, you know, for some reason I've never really had like the huge urge to get one of her books. Basically, the way I think when I try to get books out of Japan, because it's so expensive, I kind of like think of, I feel like I have to have at least one thing that I really, 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 really want in it, and then preferably like a couple that have piqued my interest. I don't really want a lot of things that, you know, that I'm like, oh, okay, this looks kind of nice, you know. I want to be like really excited about what I'm getting. So when this book came out and I saw the cover, I was like, oh, she went all out with this book. And I think that's also, I looked up a couple of reviews from the people who got it on launch day, and I think there's this one person who was talking about like how, you know, it's not quite her taste or their taste, but they can imagine that after such a long career of designing, that Mariko might have gone a bit like tired of making more safe choices when it comes to knitwear design. And I think she went really all out with this. Now, I'm not saying that I love everything in this book, but I just really appreciate the craftsmanship, and I think for that alone I really, really want to get this book. But yeah, there are a couple of things that I really want to like try my hand at and like really test, you know, my skills. The first one being the sweater on the cover. I just think it just looks like such a task to make. It looks so hard and so interesting. Like there's so much to look at in terms of like the detailing and the construction. I don't know, I just think it's like really interesting. I haven't really seen, like, I've been stalking the tag for this book for since it came out, which has been, I think, also more than 2 weeks, and I've seen people attempt some of the mittens and like some of the sweaters, which are also very interesting, but I haven't seen anyone take up this and like post about it. But I would be really excited to see it, and also in different colors. Yeah, I just think this one is like really, really cool. Then there's this other one that is like a sort of jacket thing that has, I believe it's boucle yarn that is used to make the hood. I just thought it looked so neat. From the pictures that I've seen, like the photo shoots, they did like an excellent job of really getting over the vibe. I don't know what the vibe is, but there's a vibe in this book, and it makes it, in my opinion, more appealing. But also, yeah, I think they also hired this famous Japanese actress as well to model. I don't know, there's just so much hype around this knitwear book. So yeah, there are also a ton, like, I wouldn't say a ton, but there are a couple of other sweaters in here that look also very interesting, but I'm not too sure about whether or not I would want to make those. Yeah, I just really want to be more adventurous with my knitting, you know? So there's that. And then we have men's nitto simple and basic. So men's simple and basic. So this is men's simple and basic. This is a book published by Vogue Japan, and I believe it's just by a number of designers, but for the life of me, I can't find that, since there's almost no information about this book except for this very, very, very quick flip through by Vogue Japan. But like I was struggling to like get screenshots from it on my computer. So I managed to get some, and I also looked on Google. So the reason why I want to get this is because they're male patterns for like men. And you know, that's not something that is very popular to make. Basically, you know, if you are a bit familiar with at least like the independent and also like commercial like knitting patterns, it's mostly knitwear for women and then it's men. So it's like far and few between, definitely for independent knitters. So yeah, having said that, I mean, the name of the book, of course, Men's Simple and Basic. It's simple, it's basic, a simple interesting vest here, interesting cap, maybe like a couple of cables here and there, like a cabled sweater here and there. But yeah, I just thought that it would be really nice because I am kind of like now at the point where I'm branching out, knitting for other people in my family. So I think this would be a perfect, you know, thing to have, so that I can make more things for my partner and also for the other men in my life. Then we move on to apple mints. So apple mints is also part of Vogue Japan, or sometimes they're referred to as Vogue Nihon. So Nihon is like the Japanese word for Japan. Yeah, basically apple mints, it's like a series by Vogue Japan where they have these very thin books and they're all about like a different topic within crafts. You'll have one for teddy bears, 3D, what's it called? 3D crochet squares, things that you can make with granny squares, and a whole book on crochet socks, things like that. Yeah, it's a great way to get introduced to things. I do have a couple, so actually I can let me get one of mine. They do also have, like, once the books are like maybe 3 or 4 years old, they do also tend to offer online versions. So I have 4 with me, and then I have some digital ones on my computer. 3D squares, crochet squares. You have here crochet flowers, and then here I have crochet like bags. I'm actually making one of these bags at the moment. The process is slow, but we're getting there. I'm making this one right here. So yeah, just like a great source of information. So the one that I want to get is called Sashu ito de amu kagibari amino. What is it like? Kutsushita? I can't read that. There's a bit of hard kanji, but basically it's crochet plant gallery. Yeah. So basically it's just a book that shows you how to crochet plants, and they have a ton. Like, if I'm counting it now, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 different types of plants that look so vastly different and so incredibly cool. Like, I don't know the person who designed it, but they are so talented. So yeah, I'll just pop a couple of them on the screen so you can admire them with me. So the reason why I want to get this is because I've just moved into a bigger space. If you've been watching my channel, it's different, like the place I'm filming is different. So the person who lived here before had like a lot of plants, and I actually want to have a lot of plants myself, but I do not really trust myself with taking good care of them. Not necessarily in the sense that I don't know how to water them like in time, that I won't be able to do that, but more so that I'm really, really clumsy, and I'm sure gonna like spill some mud and make the plants fall at some point. So in order to avoid all that chaos and heartbreak, I just thought it would be nice to make some crochet plants. So moving on, I have actually 2 books, and these are about socks because, I mean, at this point I am a sock knitting girly. So this one is called teami no sokkusu, so hand knitted socks, and this one is by Toshiyuki Shimada. Now he is also a very popular knitwear designer. It has been a while since he's released a book. This is actually one of his older ones. This one is from 2009, but I actually have one of his books here. This one is called Eclogue, and I fell in love with this book just because of this sweater. I just thought it was really nice. So I have the yarn for this sweater actually, but I have yet to start it. I got this like maybe 2 years ago, and I'm actually quite happy that I didn't, work on it when I first got the yarn, because one, the yarn was expensive, and two, I didn't think I had, well, at the time, now I know I didn't have the skills to like really see it through. So I'm just happy to, be able to knit this at some point, maybe like next year or so, when I feel even more comfortable with color work, because that's something I'm still working on. I bit off a bit more than I can chew, like could chew, like right before I kind of like had to take a huge long break from knitting when I worked on this one called Carnation. Oh, the tensioning was so bad at the bottom. I'm pretty sure I had no idea what I was doing. This was my first color work project. Isn't that like wild? I still do think that I did quite an okay job at that, but I feel like now I have more skills, and I also have now the knowledge that I still don't really feel completely prepared to do that. In any case, yeah, this book is basically kind of like, it's a book for both beginner sock knitters and advanced sock knitters, or just sock knitters who want to get more information, I think. So basically what the book does, as far as I can see from like my internet sleuthing, is that it provides you with the construction, like how a sock is constructed. I think it has, basically it has a couple of types, so A type, B type, C type, and then they explain essentially the different parts of constructing. So mostly just the, how would I call it, the heel construction and the toe construction. Like that's basically where you get your most of your like variety in terms of sock construction from. And so yeah, in that way it's very straightforward and offers people who aren't familiar with sock structure and sock knitting, it offers them the information that they might need to complete a sock successfully. And then also there are a number of socks in here that offer some challenge to, experienced knitters. They have a lot of color work, some cabling, so I just think that that's just very interesting, the variety. I think you also have some Latvian style socks as well, so that's also very interesting. And so finally we've come to this book called Teami kutsushita kenkyuujo. Anyway, it means kind of like hand knit sock research institute. Oh, and there's like a in between brackets, it's nooto maniacs, so just knitting maniacs. And this book is from Kotomi Hayashi, and it's basically similar to the previous book, so I think this one goes a bit more into depth when it comes to sock construction, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I think, yeah, in general, they're not that many, like different types of heels, there are only so many, and definitely only so many that are comfortable. I think it would be interesting to compare, like see what one book is lacking and what the other one has. Yeah, this book has a good couple of different designs. If I'm looking now, I can see at least like 15 designs. So Yeah, I think I saw a really nice one that I thought was really cute in terms of color work. It's this one sock that's like yellow and greenish. I'll try and put a video. I'll try to put a picture up here if I can find it. So yeah, a lot of like bits and bobs coming in and out in this video, but I do hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed really talking about it and kind of like justifying and looking, like taking the time to actually look at books and being like, do I really want to buy it? Why? What makes me want to get this book? Am I really going to make something? Am I really going to use it? Just going more in depth. This was like a really good video for me to work on. So I hope that at the very least you enjoyed my ramblings, even if it's like background noise or something. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in a new video. Take care.